Hey, welcome to Saturday night. Got a special show tonight, doing some kind of interesting things. A little different from usual. Oh, I got a comment already. So, okay. Hi, all. Hello. And I have size 8 feet. The government is not hiding me. Well, size 8 is actually small. So, just saying. Anyway, so let me bring on the guy who is actually running the show for tonight. Yeah, running the show for tonight. Let me bring him on. This is guy right here.
Worries about upsetting a droid.
That's because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
Yeehaw, Cracker Jack!
Welcome. Yeah.
The time prophet is I guess he would be a Littlefoot instead of a Bigfoot.
Yeah, he's actually got small feet for a man. Yep.
Or it just could be the European
not a surprise.
shoe size ratings too could be a little off.
Well, everything is bigger in America. It just is. Anyway, so here that would be a small shoe size. I guess it's big over there. I got little tiny girl feet, I guess. But anyway, let me bring. Speaking of people from over there, let me bring our friend out.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap. Crap.
Hello. I would like to make something perfectly
Hello.
clear.
Yes.
I also have a size 8.
Damn.
Or 8.5. 8.5. Depending on the shoe.
The metric size.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But you know what? You know what they say about a man with big shoes, don't you?
No.
He's hiding a lot of money in there.
No, he's got big socks.
Big socks. Good to know. Good to know. Our shoe sizes are different in Britain. Size 8 is big here.
Big.
Okay. All right.
I
guess they go with. Yeah, I guess they go with meters and stones and pounds and all this
stones
stuff.
Stones. Yes, for weight.
Yep.
Yes, we still do, although it's kilograms. I think.
Yeah.
Kilos.
Yep, stones, feathers, all sorts of.
Yeah. Can we not just pick
stuff.
one, please?
Yes, pick one.
Hold on 1 second. Let me fix this right quick.
Yes, thank you very much.
So you're letting this guy runs the show? Are you sure about this?
He is running the show tonight. Yes.
We have our ways.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I do too. But here we go. We will not be with Abby tonight, which is
Abby is
a little disappointing because we are retiring. We are retiring the undecided. We decided that last week. So no more undecided.
No undecided.
Yeah. Which we created for Abby, and then Abby's like the one that wanted rid of it. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's like he was always like, oh no, I have no decision. I'm not making any decisions. It's like, what? Dude. And then last week he's like, well, actually, it's in the middle. And in the middle is the same as undecided. I'm like, not really, but he's like, well, yeah, it is. I was like, okay, well, we created undecided because you didn't want to do in the middle. So I think it's hilarious that somebody who I had to create something for because he insisted that it needed to be a category was the one that was like, well, it's actually the same thing. That's what I said when you wanted me to create it. Anyway. He's not here, so I can rag him all I want. It is what it is.
Exactly.
You don't show up, you're fair game. You're fair game. It's just fair game. Anyway. So tell us what our subject is tonight, Mr. Wookie.
Our subject tonight, Cooper, thank you very much for asking. Is the government hiding Bigfoot?
Okay.
Probably
Well,
don't.
I just got my
Isn't that-
poll in the chat, in my chat. So the poll's up. Minus undecided.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I didn't include undecided either. So
yeah.
undecided.
So already I have
bye-bye.
100% on debunked. Thank you.
Of course, because Time Prophet's in your chat. Of course, it's debunked.
Who could that have been?
We're going to be talking tonight. We're going to combine a couple things. The
For
conspiracy
such
theory with the
For such an
cryptid.
intelligent guy, he's pretty predictable, I have to say.
Wookie, what are you saying? This is a mishmash?
He said
This is a
mishmash. It's a hodgepodge.
What kind of show is this?
So we've combined the two, conspiracy and cryptid, because there has been a lot of witnesses to things that have happened after sightings of these creatures, and or situations where they have, let's just say that was kind of like the missing 411 in national parks, where something happens out of the blue and a whole lot of people go missing and there's no trace or anything like that. Although in some situations where the government does get involved, it has been because a lot of dead bodies were found.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a mountain lion that did it.
Well, I think something happened.
Yeah, something happened there. I'll tell you what. But so there's been that.
So where pray tell were these dead bodies?
Well,
What location?
well, there's a lot of different ones. One that can be that you're probably well aware of is land between the legs. You're talking about humans or non-humans?
We're not talking about humans tonight. We're talking about freaking Sasquatch.
Yes, Sasquatch is.
I think he meant human bodies were found.
Yes.
Is that what you meant? Yeah.
Yes. And usually when the government gets involved, there's an issue with what they call rogue Sasquatches.
As opposed to cuddly ones?
Yeah. Oh, the cuddly 9-foot tall one that weighs 700 pounds.
As opposed to domesticated Sasquatches, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we all have them. Mine's in the cupboard over there.
I have no idea.
Don't you come in and tell me you Sasquatch!
Eddie Murphy did a joke about one of his aunts being a Sasquatch. It's pretty funny. All right. So
meanwhile, back at the subject.
Okay. So yes, there were quite a number of deceased Bigfoot, Sasquatch that were found in the aftermath of the Mount St. Helens volcano eruption in Mount St. Helens, Washington State. A lot of people involved in there, from civilians to National Guard to military. So a lot of different things going on there, but a lot of strangeness. Mount St. Helens is known and has had a rich history for over 100 years so far of accounts of Sasquatch and Bigfoot encounters and sightings. The most famous was the 1924 incident, what they call Ape Canyon incident, where there was a handful of men who were prospectors that basically got the shit scared out of them and chased off the mountain by a pack of big hairy men. So throwing boulders. So they've been up in those mountains for quite some time. So let's see here. We got story one. Let's go with story one here in our list, since it is number one. So we'll take a listen.
32 a.m. Pacific time. the ground beneath and around Mount St. Helens rumbled. An earthquake rattled the weakened north face of the mountain, creating havoc as it slid away. Moments later, the mountain exploded as molten rock and explosive gases blew upward. The result was the largest landslide ever recorded, and devastation that had not been seen in a long time. An eruption column blasted 15 miles into the air, and ash was distributed across 11 states. Glaciers on the mountain melted, creating giant lahars, or giant debris-filled rivers of water, mud, and trees that spread 50 miles southwest. It was a catastrophic natural disaster with a release of 24 megatons of thermal energy, or nearly equal to 1,600 times the size of the atomic bomb released on Hiroshima. Nearly 60 people were killed as a direct result of the eruption, along with a tremendous amount of wildlife that had taken up residence on the mountain. There are estimations of 1,500 elk and 5,000 deer, along with numerous bears, salmon hatcheries destroyed, killing as many as 40,000 salmon as a direct or indirect result of the Mount St. Helens eruption. Along with that, there have been lingering reports of several Sasquatch possibly being among the dead creatures recovered as part of the cleanup effort, with a bigger effort to keep that news under wraps. 2 weeks after the blast, men from the Army Corps of Engineers were dredging the Cowlitz River when they found the bodies of 2 Sasquatch in the sand along the banks. Military helicopters were tasked with carrying out the bodies of elk, deer, bear, and in this case, 2 Bigfoot corpses in large nets attached to the bottom. Typically, these bodies were taken to large pits where they were burned to prevent the spread of disease and contamination of rivers. One report to the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, shortened from here on out to BRFO, was submitted by Fred Bradshaw detailing what his father had seen as part of this cleanup effort. My father worked for Weyerhaeuser at Green Mountain, Washington, east of Vancouver. The site had security on their roads to check on the equipment and check closed areas to keep people out. My father was working the day Mount St. Helens blew up. He was at a meeting in Kelso. He was a supervisor at the time. My father was sent back to Green Mountain right away, but like most, he wasn't allowed to go very far because of the mudslide coming down the river. He did get to the town of Tootle on Highway 504 off I-5. He and his crew were placed at different spots to watch mud flow and, of course, help people get out of the blast zone after the major blow-up. He was sent to the area of Spirit Lake to keep people out. When the second major blow-up of the mountain happened, my father and the other guy with him reported in, and they got out of there. He was then placed in charge of the helicopter landing zone. It was his job to help keep people out of the landing zone and let aid crews in so they could care for the injured. Later, when all the people were out and the bodies were gone, the National Guard was brought in to clean up. They hauled dead animals out that they placed in piles, deer in one, elk in another, and so on. They were covered up with tarps, and they were later burned. But my father was placed in charge of one pile of dead that were covered, and no one was allowed to go near. Armed U.S. National Guard personnel were around this pile. This was on the day they were going to move this group of bodies. My father was very close to it. When the tarps were removed, he saw the creatures, these Sasquatch creatures, some badly burned and some not. They placed them in a net and lifted them into a truck and covered it over. My father asked one of the guardsmen what they were planning to do with them. The guy shrugged and said, "Study them, I suppose, or whatever." He didn't want to know. He said, "It's like other things. You don't ask, and you keep your mouth shut." My father and the rest were debriefed. They were told to keep their mouths shut as to what they had seen, and then they were sent home.
Well, I guess they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't get out in time. Yeah, so there's lots of stories revolving around the Mount St. Helens aftermath. In fact, there was reading a report, actually listening to a report on the Willstar Productions channel from a video he did 3 years ago on the subject, and it was a couple of guys out there on that Toutle River fishing when that thing exploded. They were fishing, I don't know how many miles down the river, but they were on the river, and he just took off. Well, but yeah, so there's a couple of fellows that were fishing down there, and they actually saw, amongst all, you saw all those logs and debris and stuff, the rapids going through. They actually they claimed they saw a Sasquatch trying to save itself. You know, it was like grabbing whatever it could to pull itself up out of the water or get out of the water. But, those rapids are pretty fast coming down that mudslide stuff. So,
I'm sure there would be.
So yeah, the United States
refresh my. Could you refresh my memory a bit? Did the Smithsonian interfere with this as well, or was that something else?
No, I don't think they did on this.
We've
because
we've covered a few things.
Not on this one, but there is a.
Yeah, they have in the past.
They did show up later. I've got that clip.
A few things.
Yeah. But this particular incident, this was all oversaw by the United States federal government, by the military, basically. The military took care of all of this.
Right. Yeah.
So, there was quite a bit of stories about this situation. There was a couple stories from young guys who were in the National Guard in Washington who reported to do these things, but they said that there were military people there that were not National Guard, but they were military. And yes, two, peace, victory.
As in story 2.
Story 2.
Story 2.
Damn. I thought you were flipping me the bird in Australian there.
No, that's
it. Yes, that's it. Very well. My producer says I need to advance to story 2. Here we go.
After that post was made public, another person came forward to add more to the story. I was a National Guardsman on the Mount St. Helens site, and this is the first time I have ever spoken about what I saw firsthand. I lived in Spokane, Washington, and was 24 at the time this all took place. I have read some of the other stories, and they only tell part of the story. I was placed on a special cleanup crew farther up the mountain. A large tent was set up, and it was guarded by armed soldiers. We were given a briefing by one soldier who said that after he spoke to us, we would forget about him and what he said at the end of the mission. That was strange, as we never dealt with anything like that before. 4 guardsmen and I were told to follow a group of soldiers and not to speak to each other and to remain very quiet. We were told to get into a jeep and wait. We sat in that jeep for maybe a half hour. Eventually, another jeep arrived, carrying a civilian and another member of the military. The civilian was brought into the tent, and he emerged a few minutes later, followed by a large, hairy creature. It looked like a large man, covered in fur, and the best way to describe it was like Beast from X-Men, only brown. The creature looked to have some burns and had a bandage on its arm. At first, we were afraid, but when it walked by, we could see its eyes, and it just looked very sad and somber. He climbed into the back of a pickup with the civilian, and the two were speaking in a weird language I had never heard. It would cough at times, too. We followed the truck to different areas. There were 5 stops in total. Each time we stopped, we were told to follow the civilian and the creature. Each time we followed them to rocky areas where there were caves. The creature would make a sound and then listen. At the first area, he made a sound and we all just waited in silence. After a few minutes, the creature looked at the civilian and then at the ground. The civilian at one point touched its shoulder and called for a canteen to give the creature a drink. The same thing happened at the next area. But this time there was a response to the sound. After a few minutes, 2 soldiers emerged from the cave, carrying a badly burned creature just like the one with the civilian. The creature bent down next to it and looked it over for several minutes. It then spoke softly with the civilian. It turned and walked back to the truck, and we were told to follow as we were walking away. We heard a shot, and we knew it was one of the soldiers putting the creature out of its misery. There was no response at the 3rd or 4th site, but at the 5th, there was another return sound to the creature. This time it was different, and soldiers carried out a creature with a badly burned left leg. We were then ordered to all help get a very large stretcher from the truck and help place the creature on it and carry it back to the truck. We then immediately returned to the base camp. The creature was carried into the tent while the other creature and the civilian communicated. We were ordered to stay in the Jeep until we were to be debriefed. As the creature turned to walk into the tent, it looked at us and made a waving gesture with its hand. We took that as a thank you for what we had done. By the time we were ordered out of the Jeep, we were all in shock. We were called over to an area to be debriefed, and it was just strange. I will never forget what was said because it was just not what I was expecting. A high-ranking soldier said to us, "Look, do you all really want an explanation? You saw what we were doing. These creatures live in these areas. They mean no harm and want to be left alone. Do you really want to do anything that may cause them trouble? They are like us in a lot of ways. If you need or want to talk about this, just wait about 30 years. By that time, there will likely be no reason to keep them a secret." We were then ordered back to the guard camp because they were breaking it up so nobody saw too much and knew everything that happened. We did not speak of it, and after a few months, I just took the attitude that these things live out there. And honestly, my life is no different because of it. I only bring it up now because people have been writing a lot about Mount St. Helens, and I believe that the whole story should be told. I will also say this. I like to camp and hike and have done so many times throughout the Northwest. Every time I would look for signs of these creatures, tracks, listen for sounds. I have never seen or heard anything like I did that day on Mount St. Helens.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff that went on out of, at that time. Yeah, kind of crazy. A lot of the military people that were
there
there.
was a third story I didn't include.
Yeah.
There was a third story I didn't include of an Air Force colonel who said that they were rerouted away from their assignment to stand watch at this encampment. And there was supposed to be doing like first aid on, people that were basically rendered homeless from the volcano eruption. And he said he remembered that there's people being led into the tents for first aid, and they were like head and shoulders above the doctors, and they were very broad-shouldered and very tall, and he didn't really get a good look at them. And then he was told basically, okay, go back to your assignment and never speak of this again. And
right.
I didn't include it because it just had a lot of superfluous information, but essentially that was his observation. So it's supposedly the same time as the Mount St. Helens thing. But
I think there was there was a group of U.S. Air Force, I think mechanics or techs or something like that. They were on a training
mechanics
mission.
Yeah.
They went up to
you're telling the story I just basically just told.
Yeah, I am.
You're retelling the story I just told. So, okay, let's move on.
Oh, shit. Who's
No
running
point
the
in telling
damn
the story I
show
just
here,
told.
buddy? Holy
Doing
crap.
you do this all the time. I tell a story, and then you tell the exact same story because your little ADHD brain just floated away, and you weren't.
It sounds better from me. Oh, holy crap.
All right, whatever.
So,
Whatever.
yeah, the military gets involved in a lot of situations involving Sasquatch incidences, usually when they have reported deaths or something like that in national parks, state parks somewhere. They'll send in basically a hit squad, but they're usually Navy SEALs or Delta Force or something like that. So that's going to be in this where it says hunted. This actually supposedly happened in your neck of the woods there, Bunny. So let's watch this one.
U.S. Special Forces hunts and kills a family of dangerous Bigfoot in North Carolina. Dave Schrader from Darkness Radio received a letter from an anonymous man claiming to be a former U.S. Special Forces operative regarding a mission he was a part of back in the early 1990s. This initial report can be found at phantomsandmonsters.com. In the early 1990s, I was with the teams in the Navy. We were sanctioned by an alphabet government agency to put a stop to several aggressive Sasquatch in the high country of western North Carolina. We all thought it was a joke at the mission briefing, but it was no joke. My partner in our team of 12 was my swim buddy. He was Native American, and this man wasn't scared of anything. Before we were ordered to go out during the briefing, all of these agents were showing us slides of what these creatures did to people, adults and children alike, as well as the damage done to vehicles and homes. Anyway, my buddy turned white with sheer fear. He told me, "This is bad, really bad." When we arrived in the little mountain village town, the sheriff met us. He told us that he'd never been so happy to see the cavalry since he'd been in Korea. He showed us the actual places where, as he put it, this is where those big hairy demons destroyed this or killed him or her or them, right there. My buddy was taking everything in like I never saw him before. After talking with the sheriff, our lieutenant told us to fire up because we were going hunting. As we were getting our gear ready, my buddy said to me, "You know, I always thought that my grandfather was just telling me scary stories about when he and his brothers fought the wild men." At about 1400 hours, we started. By 1600, we found lots and lots of tracks. We started tracking the creatures. We made out at least 7 different individuals. We made first contact at around 1930, and it was almost dark. The point man stopped dead in his tracks and spoke into his headset. "I see one. It's friggin' huge." The lieutenant said, "If you have a shot, take it." He shot this massive, hairy beast with a 7.62 millimeter round, and it acted like a mosquito bit him. This creature turned around and let out a god-awful roar. Our point man quickly switched to full auto. This time, the creature dropped like a rock after 10 7.62 millimeter rounds cut up his chest. After first contact, the agents radioed in and said they wanted one alive. Our lieutenant told them to go screw themselves. It took 3 days and nights with almost no sleep, but we dropped 7 of these hairy bastards. We found the missing people, or rather what was left of them. We had one casualty when a team member was snatched straight up into a tree. There was nothing anyone could have done for him. To this day, thinking of those 3 days sends chills down my spine. You won't find those 3 days in any military record or mission log. Going into our mission debriefing, where normally we are asked 1,001 questions about every shot fired, every angle we fired from, every angle we fired on, we were simply told that the past 3 days, we were doing rigorous mountain training, and during that training period, we unfortunately lost a man. And with that, the debriefing team stood up and walked out. Now, normally, we have individual debriefing for the whole team, but this was the one and only time it was just as a team. So, to answer your next question, what about the Sasquatch bodies? After 3 days, government agents came in and removed all 7 corpses and flew them out.
Yeah, they'll do that in several different parts of the United States. There has been reports of black SUVs rolling up or whatever, and military-looking guys get out, but they're not wearing military. They're wearing black military fatigues with no emblems, no names, no nothing, no ranks, and they'll go in, and you hear a lot of gunfire, and then a helicopter might show up and drop a winch, and there they go. But yeah, that's kind of I've read
Totally
some
not
stories.
suspicious at all.
No, not at all. It happens every day, apparently. But
Exactly.
that's
I just saw them.
some of those stories, some of those accounts from some of these veterans are pretty detailed, and there's a lot of gruesome stuff that they find. So yeah, this that channel kind of like basically filtered it. So, which is their prerogative. Others don't, but they did. But yeah, so it can be pretty interesting. This next one is about, I guess they called it the Iceman, is 1960s, I think. Apparently, this was something that was supposedly found in like Siberia or someplace. Don't know. There's 2 clips on the
ice in the Bering Strait, I think it was.
Oh, Bering Strait. Okay. So let's take a look at this.
Bigfoot-like creature found. Showman Frank Hansen exhibited the Iceman, a Bigfoot-like creature encased in ice, at the International Livestock Exposition in Chicago. This relic of the Ice Age was found in the waters off Siberia. In December 1968, Bernard Hillevmans of Royal Institute of Natural Sciences of Belgium examined the creature in a trailer in Minnesota. They said, "We consider this to be a genuine and unique example of the most priceless specimen." In a scientific journal, Bernard declared that he discovered a new species of man. In April 1969, the Smithsonian appealed to the FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover for help. Hoover declined, citing the absence of a violation of a federal law within our investigation jurisdiction. It's reported that the U.S. Customs would look into it, the body. After all, it was supposedly imported. Meanwhile, Frank put a model of the specimen on display.
Yeah.
Say it with me, everybody. The Smithsonian.
The Smithsonian. Yep. That old Smithsonian.
It's the Yeti.
It's the Yeti. Yep. Oh, we don't have any record of that.
Actually, James. No. Actually, James Taylor wrote a song based on that.
Really?
Based on the Iceman. Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
Because they took it around as an exhibition for a little while, and he wrote a song based on it.
And then it just
Greg says that he was at a concert when it was introduced. So.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
And then it just mysteriously disappeared.
Yep. Iceman, officially named Old Sea, not found in Siberia, is discovered in Old Sea Alps, located in Australia. At Italy in 1981. White Sea is a mummified body of a man who lived between 3350 and 315 BC, if you believe in carbon dating. But actually, that's a different one from what that was. The one that he was showing actually was found in the Bering Strait.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's more than one furry man found in the ice. This just happens to be another one.
Yeah.
So
let's watch this last one with the FBI.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
J. Edgar Hoover.
the FBI got involved. An Oregon man intent on proving the existence of a mythical creature known as Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Abominable Snowman, and Yeti in 1976 managed to get the FBI to test hair and tissue samples that he believed might help his case, according to newly released records. The FBI has analyzed hair in connection with the search for Sasquatch, aka Bigfoot. An internal FBI memo noted in February 1977 said, the man who spurred the analysis, 93-year-old Peter Brine, told CNBC that he hadn't given up hope proving that Bigfoot is real, if exceedingly rare creature. FBI agent wrote back to Peter saying, we will examine the hairs and tissue mentioned in your letter. It was the first time that the FBI apparently tested a sample of hair to see if it was Bigfoot, according to the records, which contained photocopied images of the hairs. The FBI said the examination of the hair concluded a study of morphological characteristics such as root structure, medullary structure, and cuticle thickness in addition to scale casts. Also, the hairs were compared directly with hairs of known origin under a comparison microscope. At the end of all that, it was concluded as a result of these examinations that the hairs are of deer family origin. The hair sample you submitted is being returned as enclosed in this letter, it said. Was it really deer hair, or were they covering up the fact that it actually was Bigfoot? The fact that they even tested the hair is insane.
Oh yeah, yeah. They probably tested it because they knew it was.
Well,
deer.
well, I mean, I've seen deer fur. Well, I've seen deer fur, and it's all short hair, and it comes out in tufts. It doesn't come out in long strands.
Right.
So, calling bullshit on that.
Right.
One. So,
Yeah, I mean,
not necessarily saying it's a Sasquatch, but that's definitely not deer.
Oh, they
definitely
definitely went ahead with the test because they knew which the samples. You know.
Well, as we know from the Shroud of Turin, the carbon dating, if you want something to go away, the best way to do it is to test it and then release the findings in all the media outlets and say, we have tested it and it is completely, totally. And then they don't, and then the press is like, oh, okay. Okay, master, we will run with this narrative.
You could,
you know.
You could also test the worst possible samples as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like like they did with the Shroud. So
everyone's hiding a lot of things.
Hey,
Bigfoot would probably be the most retarded. Yeah. Granted.
It's possible.
So, Wookie, what is your theory as to if the government is hiding Bigfoot? Okay. If they are hiding the Bigfoot, what would be the reasons why? In your theory?
Because what would happen is, like any other endangered species, the government likes to take land and cordon it off, so you can't do anything on it, farming or building.
Well, see, if they were wanting to do that, wouldn't but then they couldn't do a land grab if they're hiding the fact that this exists. You want to hear my theory?
They do land grabs anyway. They do land grabs.
I mean, they do it anyway, but
I mean, look how many national parks that were signed into that were formed at midnight, signed by some president, out of the blue. So yeah, anytime that the government comes up with a new national park, it's always a land grab. It has no benefit other than there might be some kind of natural resource or something either underneath the ground or on top that the government wants to control.
Yeah, but that doesn't answer the question I was asking. What would be the benefit of hiding the fact that a Bigfoot exists? If we're presupposing that they're hiding Bigfoot, what would be the reasoning behind hiding the existence of Bigfoot?
Well, as I stated earlier, they would have to cordon off land. They would have to give this place some sort of protected area, like they do.
But see, that doesn't
owls
make
or
sense,
anything
though.
else.
But see, that doesn't
What did
make
they do
sense,
to
though.
owls?
I
What
mean,
did they do to owls? There was a case with owls.
yeah,
They cordoned off all
but
this
see,
land. You can't
but see
farm
that,
on
that
it, and you
to
can't
do
it.
that, you would have to prove the existence of something that you have to protect, and they're hiding the fact that Sasquatches
Right, and
exist
they don't want it
by
to come
your
out.
theory.
They don't want
Okay,
it to come.
so why is that? Why do you think that is?
Well, it's basically goes back to what I just said. They'd have to cordon off land. If they cordon off the land, the economy takes a huge dump. And then the confidence in the government goes way down too, because they've been hiding all this crap from people over the decades and decades that they've known about this. Like anything else. I mean, they'll come out and say, oh, it's just fuzzy, grainy pictures. Or, oh, look, it's not really some creature's hair. It's deer hair or dog hair or something like that. You know, they're going to come up with some excuse.
Well, my theory, my theory actually makes sense. Okay, so my theory is, okay, if you look at what the Smithsonian and has always done, and always time they stuck their nose in, when they've always like seized things or suppressed things or buried things, it's always been for one purpose: to hide the fact that evolution is bunk. And so, if there is like something along the lines of something that proves that evolution is bunk, then most of the time they're going to suppress it. And so that would be my theory. In some way, shape, or form, Sasquatch proves that evolution is bunk, and so that's why they're suppressing it. To me, but
well, that's one.
land
That's
grab.
one
I mean, that's
for
possible.
sure. That's one factor of it for sure. But as far as from an economic standpoint, I mean, they don't want it to come out, because if it did, they'd have to treat it like they treat everything else. You know, I mean, it's crazy, but that's the way.
So
Yeah, they're
I don't
buttheads.
think I'm getting a Christmas card from B Dog this December.
You're getting a visit from Krampus.
So
Krampus is going to come with his switch in his bag.
Well, we prefer.
So-
we actually believe that Krampus doesn't exist, so we disproved that. That's,
So
next December.
if we're suggesting that the presence of Bigfoot debunks evolution and whatever, what does that make them? What are they then? Are they another race of human beings?
Well,
Nephilim?
I don't know.
Or what?
It's like the way that institutions have pretty much engineered the quote unquote history of man. It's like everything else, it went extinct except for Homo sapiens. Okay. This, like Bunny said,
Right.
This would be one of those situations where if they actually had to come out and say these things, and there's more than one throughout the world, these things exist, and so they have their own language, they have their own communication ability, they have their own intelligence. Some of them are pretty docile, other ones are pretty freaking evil. So it's like anything else.
Well, if you follow that logic, though, what does evolution say? That there's earlier forms of development, and then there's then something like comes out of that, and so i.e. they wouldn't be parallel, right? Yeah, and so if you found a human, if you found a humanoid that's existing like alongside of humanity, then that would completely prove that the evolution is bunk, because then that would prove that that Cro-Magnon could have existed the same time as Homo sapien,
Yep.
And i.e. it would bust Darwin's theory pretty much wide open. So That's a possibility.
Yeah, exactly. But that, and again, yeah, and it would pretty much upend the institution's grip on science. Let's put it that way, science. I mean, and the Smithsonian Institute has pretty much ramrodded everything here in the United States.
How would this affect? How would this affect the biblical history then?
I don't. I mean, I'd have to look into that. But there are strains of humanity that. Go ahead.
Yeah, would they be considered man, or is that something else?
Well, we did an earlier show where we were talking about giants, and giants were considered part of
Nephilim and stuff. Yeah.
Right, and we know
Could they
that
be
giants.
leftovers?
Right, and we know that every time the giant skeleton showed up, the Smithsonian's like, hey, let us borrow that for a little bit. And then, I don't know what you're talking about. That's happened over and over and over.
Could they be descendants? They're bigger than normal humans, so could they be descendants of Nephilim then?
Yeah. That would prove the biblical record, wouldn't it? I mean, right now, Florida Gators have in our basketball program a kid who is 7'9".
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He basically he basically does a bunny hop to dunk. He's currently working.
Dang.
He's in Florida Gators basketball program right now. I don't know if he'll ever make an NBA, but 7'9" is quite an advantage. But that would be approximately the same height that they consider Goliath and biblical record. And he was connected to Nephilim. His lineage was connected to the Nephilim. So if you say, I mean, so there are like parallel strands of humanity that are listed in the Bible. So I mean, it's a possibility.
We really do have a mishmash going on here.
We do.
There really is a mishmash.
Well, yeah, and then the government covered up the old Afghanistan giant. That guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. That was a monster right there.
There was a guy that was in the Midwest that was over 8 foot. Mm-hmm. He died like in his 20s, but he was over 8 foot.
Yeah.
So Waldrop, they call him the Waldrop giant. Yeah. So Andre the Giant was massive. I mean, massive.
It was. And massively strong too.
Oh yeah.
The span of his hand was like the size of a dinner plate. I mean, it was massive, man.
Mm-hmm.
He could hold a beer. He could hold a standard 12-ounce beer can in his hand, and you couldn't see it.
Yeah,
you could not see it. So yeah, he was huge.
So if the I mean, if you follow that logic that every time they're suppressing something, it has to do with suppressing or boosting the evolutionary theory, then it would make sense that a bipedal humanoid coexisting with humanity would be something that they'd want to like hide. So if we're going by this, So he played a robot Sasquatch, in $6 Million Man. Yeah.
Yep.
He sure did. So I'm just saying that there's a lot of smoke around the Sasquatch. Yeah, there's a lot of stories out there. A lot of them not connected to one another.
Yeah.
The Native Americans had Sasquatches all in their mythologies, and all cultures seem to have a version of it. So,
okay.
So I mean, it's one of those things, I mean, but if the government was making a concerted effort to like suppress the news of Sasquatch, and all the squatchers will tell you that they've run across like suppression, from governmental suppression. So
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
A lot of the labs that like you'll see these TV shows that they're like on History Channel or something like that. They'll they'll go to check out Sasquatches or creatures or whatever, right? And they find these hair these pieces of hair, strands of hair, and they send it over to this lab that's adjacent to some university in like Michigan or some freaking place.
Right.
And it always comes up inconclusive or some other bullshit excuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was a a group called the Sasquatch DNA Project, headed up by a gentleman by the name of Scott Campbell, and they actually sent pieces to several different laboratories, and most of them were not university based, and some were overseas, and they didn't tell them what that was, and they'd sent them back the reports on what they found and everything else, and they couldn't come up with a match to anything from these independent places that they sent these things to.
Right.
So there's cover-ups going on, like with that video with the FBI did a thing, and it's deer. They knew it was freaking deer because someone switched it. It was the plan. So yeah, anything that the government does or says, I believe the opposite.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Well, I mean, up till very recently, as like the COVID-19, all the things surrounding that, I think that the public in general kind of had like this belief that there was
that's still a taboo word,
an ethical standard. Yeah, well, I mean, I believe that there's an ethical standard to science, and so if they took a sample from the wrong part of the Shroud of Turin and busted all the rules that they said up beforehand, and then said, "Oh, it's just." I mean, when they did that for the Shroud of Turin, when they announced the dating on it, they put it on this big old sign behind them with an exclamation point, and said, "Well, if you still believe in the Shroud of Turin, that's the same as believing that the Earth is flat." And it doesn't sound science to me. It just doesn't.
No, it sounds agenda driven.
Has been since they've been disproven.
Right.
Yeah, and then when everything got disproven, they have never retracted it. Even instead of retracting it, they said, "We no longer support the findings."
Exactly.
That means that you guys are full of crap.
Yeah, they're full of shit.
But that's a nice way of saying we acknowledge that we're full of crap and that we fomented a lie. And the only reason they did that was after the data was forced to be removed. And so I'm just saying all that to say that if you get a test back from that's got a really kind of weird result to it, then I mean, you don't have to necessarily believe that it's the gospel. So,
yeah,
right.
Well,
but anyway, so we ready to vote on this one? You guys ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay.
I guess so.
Well,
you're gonna.
All right, cool. What's your vote, my friend?
I don't know.
He's undecided. It's not listening. He can't vote now.
I think there is something going on, but as to what, I'm not 100% sure.
So you're in the middle. You're basically in the middle.
I'm in the middle. Yeah, I'm in the middle.
Yeah. All right.
Pretty much.
Well, I'm not quite confirmed, so I'm gonna be with my man Cruel here and say I think it's about in the middle myself. What about you?
There's definitely something.
Well, the government has its hands in a lot of stuff, and whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, or regime changes in countries throughout the world that they deny they've done. Yeah, it's
No.
That
I mean,
conspiracy theory.
Anybody
Conspiracy.
remember the old Tuskegee experiment? Yeah, government poisoned people. So yeah,
Allegedly.
allegedly, but they all got sick with the same shit. It was syphilis they gave them. They all got sick with the same stuff after being inoculated. Imagine that. Yeah, no, I'm confirmed. The government has its hands.
Syphilis
in
can
some way,
happen to
shape, or form.
anybody.
Yeah, to a whole group of people, a whole bunch of freaking people. They all happen to be black.
That were sequestered and unless they had one heck of an orgy, that just didn't seem very possible myself. But we may do that one of these days. We may do Tuskegee experiment one of these days.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be controversial.
Yeah, a little bit. Wouldn't be
Just
the
a
first time.
bit.
So you're going to go with confirmed? So you're confirmed on this
Oh,
one?
yes,
Wookie?
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. I don't think I got any votes in mine.
Well, I got 4 votes.
Let me look. Nope, no votes on mine. Okay. 4 votes. Alrighty.
Yeah, it looks like there's 1 in the middle, 1 confirmed,
Mhm.
and 2 debunked.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. 1 in the middle, 1 confirmed. So that's 2 confirmed, 3 in the middles, and 2 debunks.
2 debunks.
So
In the
looks like
middle
in
has
the
it.
middles have it.
In the middle.
I guess they do.
Up
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yep. Well, you want to try to convince us to get us off the schneid, get us into confirmed? Is there anything that you think you can say that will move us over into confirmed?
Your government cares about you so much that it's going to give you this free vaccine to make sure you don't get sick from the flu that we created.
Confirmed.
It just so happens you have spike protein in your DNA for conceivable
Yeah.
future. But,
Yeah, unfortunately. until I can hook up with Keith Richards and go through that blood draining and filtering system he does. That's why he's still alive. He goes through blood dialysis like all the time.
Right. Got another one, another shot from B-Dog.
The guy in
Let's
the
say
middle.
about the guy in the middle.
Oh,
Yep,
oh my
yep.
God. He was clean from the
Yep.
vaccine. Anyway. So, yep.
That's okay.
So what
That's okay.
are we going to do next week? Let's do the Mary Celeste.
I do need to. We do need to do the one thing. We got to do the thing. So here we go.
There we go. That's out of the way. Yep. Let's do the Mary Celeste.
What would be the what would be the question there? Mary Celeste.
What happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste? They freaking just poof, gone.
Can we say accident at sea or foul play, maybe?
Yeah, could it be foul play? I don't know.
Okay. Be an accident or foul play. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, they all drowned.
No.
I mean, like the Flight of the Demeter. That vampire movie that came out. That was actually I hadn't seen it.
Voyage of the Demeter.
Yeah, the Voyage.
It
Yeah,
is
Last
good.
Voyage of the Demeter. I haven't seen that yet, but the clips look good.
Of course you got it. Who's got everything?
Time Prophet. Mary Celeste did not sink.
Mhm.
It was found with nobody on
That's
board.
what I was thinking. Yeah.
With
Yep. Yep.
there was no signs of any kind of weirdness going on. Yeah, so Mary Celeste is a big, huge mystery.
No,
even
food
to
was
this day.
still on plates.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really?
Food was
Okay,
still on
that's
plates.
strange.
Yeah. The cells were, I
Yeah.
believe the cells were secured.
Yeah, I think everything
which,
was secured.
You know, if
They
you're
had-
abandoning a ship, the cells should have been like unsecured, so it could just like, so the ship could like wouldn't break a mast. So they usually unsecured the cells, and for some reason the Mary Celeste was secured. So, you know,
yeah, it's crazy.
Weird.
it is what it is.
It was just a good mystery.
Yeah, it's one of those. One of the Cape Hatteras mysteries, because that's where it showed up.
Mhm.
Cape Hatteras, study that sometimes, it'll creep you out. A lot of shady stuff, including the Lost Colony. And it's because the graveyard of ships is out there. It's a shady place, man. Shady place.
The Cape Hatteras Triangle.
Yeah. Yep,
Wow.
there's a triangle. Yeah.
Another
It's
one?
okay. Yeah, another one. Actually, it's got a higher body count than the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, well, maybe we should do that one instead of the Bermuda Triangle.
Maybe. I don't know. Okay, if you want to do Married Celeste, we'll do Married Celeste.
Sounds good.
We'll look at that one last time. Sounds good to me. So, well, thank you for taking the lead on this one, Wookie. Did a great job. Thank you, man.
Oh, thank you very much. What is it? Triangle, not a square.
All right.
Good question. Good old time problem.
I don't know.
Greek
I
philosopher.
don't know. All the disappearances seem to happen within the same shape. So,
Yep.
It's what it is. Anyway, if you plot the disappearances, it makes a triangle. In both instances.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Anyway, there are greater things, that are dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio. So, anyway. All right. So, thank you all for coming to our show, Cryptids and Conspiracies, on a Saturday night. We will see you next time with evidently Mary Celeste. Accident or foul play. So, I guess we'll say, was Mary Celeste foul play? I think that's probably that. Anyway, it is what it is. So that's going to be next Saturday night. We will see you then. Night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Have a good one. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.